Well, Harry, welcome to this Computer Weekly video, and you've done a major piece of research on the state of the IT market and employment trends. One of the things you found is that despite the downturn, despite the austerity, if you're a software engineer, actually you're doing quite well at the moment. Salaries are going up. You know, what sort of salaries are people earning these days?
Well, it depends a lot, as you'd expect, on the technology that they work in. And with any of this stuff, it kind of boils down to supply and demand. But certainly in some of the open source markets, a lot of the young businesses starting up at the moment are using a lot of open source technologies because, you know, they're free, it makes sense early on. So some of the kind of the PHP market, the Perl market, it's not struggling too much, it's not too difficult, but certainly in some of the more traditional IT areas like Java and .NET, there's almost no engineers, almost no developers on the market at all. So salaries for the, like highly skilled engineers in those areas are rocketed through to kind of maybe 60,000, 65,000 base salaries for the best of breed, and you know, people with 2 to 3 years experience could be earning 40, 50,000 pounds a year. So yeah, absolutely huge demand, and the salaries have reflected that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you found in your research that not only are people not coming into the jobs, but once they're in the jobs, they're not sticking around for very long. I think people are saying they're going to stay with their current employer for about a year, and then they're planning to move on.
Yeah.
Why are people moving around so much?
There's a lot of different ways of looking at that, and you're absolutely right. I think it was 54% of people said they were planning on leaving within 12 months, which is huge. I mean, if only half of those people manage to achieve that, it'll still mean a quarter of the technology workforce will turn over in the next 12 months, which is massive.
So that raises the question, if you're an employer, how do you hang on to your best people? And it's not high salaries that will keep people working for you. Actually, that came quite low down in the list of priorities for people, didn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We asked people what keeps you happy and productive at work, and the fifth thing there was excellent pay and rewards, which is great. More importantly, the first most important thing was interesting and challenging projects, which is, you know, again, you could read into this kind of upskilling idea through there. Open and honest communication, being surrounded by good people, and up-to-date software and hardware. So I think if you're ticking all of those boxes, you have a good chance of holding on to your staff.
One of the things that came out also is allowing people time to work on innovative type projects. You know, the Google model where people can spend 20%, so 1 day a week, working on their own type of products. How important was that as a factor for keeping people wanting to stay with your company?
Yeah, well, it was one of those kind of eureka moments, I think, when we figured this out in the survey. It was I think businesses that allowed 20% plus time for innovation that saw by far the lowest amount of people thinking that they needed to leave the company in order to progress, and that by doing that, I think it's this kind of, I think I touched on it just before, this concept that I think people who work in technology really want to be getting better and be upskilling as much as possible. And I think that you can, you know, if you read through the survey, you read in between the lines, there is this kind of consistent theme that runs through it, people wanting to get better, learn more, enrich their CV, enrich their careers, and continually striving to be better in a better company. And I think allowing time for innovation is a complete no-brainer, really, in terms of keeping people on, if you think about how much it's costing the business when they leave.
Harry Goodwin, Head of Client Engagement at Mortimer Spinks, thanks very much for your time. And if our readers want to download a copy of the report, it's available on Computer Weekly.